Well, welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Let's kick things off by bringing you up to date with a few stories making headlines across the world. And we'll start with the breaking story that bandits just last night, invaded Danjonu community in Millennium City of Chikun local government area of Kaduna State and abducted 2 journalists. The nation's Abdul Ghaffar Alabelewe and Blueprint newspapers Abdul Rahim Abdu, as well as their wives and children. Alabelewe is also the current chairman of the Correspondence Chapel of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Kaduna State Council. One of the victims' family members, Taofiq Olayemi, who confirmed the incident, said the bandits invaded the area around 10:30 p.m. and shot indiscriminately before carrying out their dastardly act. Olayemi said the bandits kidnapped Alabelewe, his wife, and 2 of his children, while Abdu and his wife, who were also sick, were kidnapped, leaving behind their sick daughter. The latest update, however, from Arise Kaduna correspondent Nisi Gabriel is that Abdul Rahim Abdu's wife has been released due to health reasons. Now, this is a very sad developing story we're seeing here, not just particularly, we've been talking about insecurity on this platform multiple times, particularly insecurity in the north, even in Kaduna. This really shows the extent. Just last week, I was seeing a man whose first son was allegedly killed by kidnappers. His wife and children were kidnapped, also in Kaduna. I think this shows the human cost to this insecurity crisis that we are currently facing. And doubly so, it is sad to see it be journalists in this particular case.
You're very correct. Information is still a bit sketchy as to the motive, and how this latest round of kidnapping, occurred. But we know that 2 journalists were involved. And you know that when journalists are now being picked, it's, there's a suggestion that you're trying to stifle information.
Yes.
Or you are targeting a particular set of people. And therefore, our call will not just be the general call, for the authorities, to step in and make sure that they rescue the others. We like the fact that one of the victims, was released on health grounds. But it is important, particularly to direct our concern to the Kaduna State government. It looks to me like it's more of politics, vile politics that is going on in Kaduna, instead of, concentrating on the actual governance. If you recall, El-Rufai, that is now being fought and vilified today, went through one of the toughest, fights in Kaduna State against terrorists, against bandits. Some of them, people will argue that maybe it didn't quite handle them well. But with that background, what is important is for the current governor to know that Kaduna is not immune from what other parts of the northern part of Nigeria is experiencing. And therefore, he should spring up and rise to the occasion, work with the federal government, work with the police and the necessary authorities to ensure that not only are this journalists and their families rescued, but that such does not happen again.
Definitely. I mean, it's very sad news anytime you hear that an individual has been kidnapped. I don't know if I can, what are you going to call these kidnappers sympathetic that they decided, okay, because one person isn't feeling well, we're going to let them go. I think at this point, like you rightfully said, because it involves journalists, just 2 months ago, we were celebrating, World Press Freedom Day. And at this point, now that it's happened, I think it's expedient and it's imperative that the Nigerian government is reminded of its legal obligation to defend and protect the fundamental rights of the Nigerian people, journalists or not. And if you really think about it, the media space in itself is becoming, shrinking and hostile and suffocating on a daily basis due to the intolerant posture of, criticisms and dissenting voices to the work that they've done. I don't know if this kidnapping is directly related to a story that these journalists were covering, or it was just a situation where they were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Regardless of that, they are Nigerian citizens, and it's up to the Nigerian government to make sure that they find these people and bring them back home safely.
And to ensure that justice is done,
yes.
Because there's a thriving criminal enterprise around the business of kidnappings and abductions. You saw what we witnessed in Lagos during the week, in which about 7 or 9 suspected kidnappers, were exterminated based on information, which of course everybody, commended. So we shouldn't stop at that, and we shouldn't just say because these are journalists, because we know that there is also a huge concern for youth corps members all across the country, particularly in the northern part of Nigeria, who are, also very exposed to this sort of, dastardly act.
Well, just trying to serve their country.
The authorities must rise to the occasion.
Definitely, I agree with you. Let's move on now to our next story. U.S. President Biden has blamed exhaustion caused by a heavy travel schedule for his faltering performance in the latest debate with Donald Trump. The 81-year-old said relentless international travel had greatly weakened him, and he told donors that he almost fell asleep on stage. White House officials had blamed his halting performance on a cold. There has been increasing concern within the Democratic Party about Biden's mental illness ahead of November's presidential election. Last Tuesday, Texas Congressman Lloyd Doggett became the first sitting Democratic politician to call on the president to leave the race, something Mr. Biden and his family maintain he will not be pressured to do.
First of all, I want to say we understand the concerns. We get it. The president did not have a great night, as you all know, and many of you reached out during the debate. The president had a cold. He had a hoarse voice. You all heard it. That's why you reached out. But I will say this, and the president said this over the past couple of days, certainly right after the debate. He knows how to do the job. And he knows how to do the job, not because he says it, because his record proves it. Joe Biden is a person. Take away his title. He is someone who has dealt with tragedy. He is someone who has confronted that head on. He is someone who knows how to get back up once you've been knocked down. That is something that he understands very, very well. And I think, and we believe, that's something that many of Americans across the country understand as well. We understand. We're not taking away from what you all saw or what the American people saw. We understand. It was a bad night. It is not uncommon for incumbents to have a bad night on their first debate.
Very interesting comments coming there from President Joe Biden. Amid this intra-party brouhaha ahead of November's elections, of course, with that call for him to step down because of how that particular debate turned out. And I don't know if this is a situation of the president making excuses or just trying to explain to the American people why he was the way he was. I was looking at an article that the BBC put up, and they were talking about doing a list of all the trips that he has done, and apparently he had only just done 2 trips back to back, back and forth from Europe at the time, and they said that his staff had actually advised him to rest a few days before the debate. But, Joe Biden, he has to just keep going and keep pushing himself. I don't know if this inspires confidence. If you're writing an exam, you cannot come and tell the lecturer after that, the reason why you did not write the exam properly is because you did not sleep well. You are the president of the free world. It's imperative that when you show up well for the American people, especially if you are going against someone like Trump, who is going to use every avenue or every weakness, quote and unquote, to be able to come for you or tackle you. So him coming to say that, it's because he was exhausted or because he was tired, just seems like an excuse. And there's another debate coming up soon, so hopefully he in September he rests well. He has enough time between now and September to rest well, maybe reduce the number of trips he's doing. He has a vice president who can maybe take some of this workload off him, because really and truly, if he's going to go into this debate, he needs to do better. Into this election season, he needs to do better in winning the American people over.
Correct. Exhaustion, cold, excuses, you said. Excuses like that do not inspire confidence.
I almost fell asleep on
and
stage.
And that he almost fell. I'm not sure that was a smart thing, to say, but you also can't blame him. He's 81, for crying out loud. And is faced with a candidate who knows how to squeeze, how to take, a latch on to advantage. I think what is important, we've discussed, this extensively. What is important is to acknowledge that there are concerns. And the concerns are not just coming from ordinary Americans or international observers or those of us who are just journalists commenting on what might likely happen in November. The concerns are coming from right inside of the Democratic Party. You know, House of Reps members are speaking. There are hushed tones, even from the governors who say that, yeah, I mean, it's all left to him, he can run, you know, and everything. But you see that he will now, what all this means is that there will be additional scrutiny on how President Biden conducts himself, you know. He will have the opportunity to continue to defend himself, but then the scrutiny will be intense. It will be intense towards all the campaigns that he will have to do, towards the next debate in September, and the last one just before the elections, and of course towards the elections in November. What is obvious, too, is the fact that a new set of likely candidates, whether they emerge for this election, you know, because it's totally up to the president to decide whether he will step down or not, and he has said that it's only God that can, you know, take him off the ballot. I hope that is not being prophetic. But, you know, so the new set of people that we are seeing, Kamala Harris, of course, naturally will be there, then the vice president, the Californian governor, Gavin Newsom, you know, is there, and a few other people. Whether they are able to run this time around or not, what is obvious is that the most that Biden can get will be 4 years, and therefore they will start. You know, you see a new set of potential candidates and leaders of the Democratic Party. The same thing that will happen with the Republicans, whether Trump wins or not, it's only 4 years. If he loses in November, it certainly means that his influence will wane, and then we'll see a few other people who will probably try and take their party back, you know, from Donald Trump. But hey, it is the president's right to say that I can continue, you know, to rule. But then we will see if he has been substantially injured by the very obvious bad debate that he had with Donald Trump.
Yeah, I don't think, you know, that he's been substantially injured, because most polls coming out of the debate show that not many people changed their mind due to the debate performance, which I think has less to do with Joe Biden's performance and more to do with the division in American polity right now. People are highly divided. What the debate was supposed to do, particularly for the Democrats, is motivate their base to actually come out to the polls. I think on that hand, he will fail. But in terms of people actually shifting votes from one candidate to the other, it showed most polls coming out show that the debate did not change things on most of the minds of Americans. If they're either going to vote Trump, the debate did not change their mind. If they were going to vote Biden, the debate did not change their mind. Now, what that also shows is that even in the polls that we're seeing different matchups between leading Democrats, including Newsom and Donald Trump, in those polls, Donald Trump is still defeating every single one of them. In fact, in those polls, Joe Biden is doing more than a lot of the Democrats whose names are being floated right now. There's the issue of the $240 million or more, I believe, that has been raised for the elections that cannot legally or easily be transferred from the Biden-Harris ticket. And so that is going to be a huge block towards November. So the feasibility or the practicality of the Democrats being able to run a national election without the money for the Joe Biden and Harris election that they've already raised, and without Biden on the ticket, is very slim to none. The feasibility of one of these newcomers beating Trump in a head-to-head battle in most polls we can see is that it's 0 to none. So the Democrats are stuck with this reality of Joe Biden is the person that is going to have to take us into November.
Those poll results, I think it was 3 days ago, saying that the only other person that was popular enough within
is Michelle Obama.
Yes, even though
yes.
her office has come out to say she's not interested in running for president, but who knows, maybe 4 years from now she might be ready.
You never can
You can't tell, but I also
never can
think
tell.
that it's one of those things, though, where it's kind of a celebrity sort of popularity rather than a practical one, right? In that, like, people just like Michelle, they like her vibes, but her actually practically saying, I want to become a politician or run an election is a completely different thing. I think now we have to maybe leave Biden and see what happens in terms of his tiredness and all of that. I do think that the topic does need to shift back because the American elections right now are very important. Israel, Gaza, you know, the changes in the EU, the Europeans going towards the right in nearly every election. You know, the big news out of England was obviously that Labour won. However, Reform came second in a very scary amount of seats, I think over 80. So that shows like a significant shift to the right in the West right now. And so the Democrats are in a fight for their lives. I feel at this point in time they should just give him juice and vitamin C and let's see what happens.
No vitamin C.
Absolutely, you're spot on the fact that Britain shifted slightly to the right.
Yeah.
The same thing happening in France,
Yes.
where the second round of the elections, are happening. But of course, all said and done, what this shows for the American politics is that there is indeed a palpable, obvious injury, to the Biden candidacy.
Yeah.
How damaging it will be going into the elections in November is what we'll see. It is possible that he rebounds, and of course goes for second term.
Yes.
But to deny that no injury was caused after that debate is being unrealistic. All right. Okay. So we round off by telling you that the semi-finals lineup at the European Championships in Germany is complete with last night's quarterfinals results. In the first game, England defeated Switzerland 5-3 on penalties, having played out a 1-1 draw after regulation and extra time, before the Netherlands and Turkey took center stage in Dortmund to serve up another thrilling game, with the Dutch team recording a 2-1 win over the opponent to qualify for the last four. Okay. Any football fan here? Who were you rooting for? Don't I have a LinkedIn that you are slightly supporting England?
Of course, they
won.
Yes. The match ended. I think there was like an extra 20 or 30 minutes that was
It was
added.
extra time, 30 minutes.
Yes, 30 minutes, and then penalties.
And England scored all that. Fine.
Oh yeah, and that was fantastic to watch. Even though some people pointing. Why were you not rooting for England? What have the British ever done to you?
Except
Do you have any
colonization.
Swiss?
Who are you talking about?
Do you have a Swiss account
Who
that
are
we
you
don't know?
talking
I'm
about?
talking about you.
Viva la France.
Well, of course, congratulations to England. This is definitely a win, I believe, for a lot of people. I mean, you can just see on the screen there, Bukayo.
Our own Bukayo
Yes,
Saka.
Saka, who was one of those that actually scored a penalty yesterday. England had struggled to make an impact.
He was the one that actually scored the equalizer. Scored the equalizer for England in the main, in the first 90 minutes.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful game. I think that the four teams that have qualified will give us something to look forward to for the semi-finals. Sadly, the defending champions, Italy, have been booted out. But if a lot of people can, those who pundits and those who gamble, it will be a tough one, isn't it?
Yes.
The Dutch, Netherlands versus England, and then Spain, versus France. One of them, of course, will carry the cup. Something tells me that when you wear the blue color, you have some grace when it comes to football, and the team that wears blue among them. But we'll look forward to a good semi-final.
Definitely looking forward to it. And that will be all on News Making the Round.